Ever imagine like learning English just by like keeping up with what's going on in the world?
Oh, absolutely.
It's kind of like killing two birds with one stone,
Yeah.
except maybe it's more like two idioms with one news article. Welcome to podcast Listen and Learn English on my channel. Your channel name, the show that helps you unlock fluency one headline at a time. I'm your host for this deep dive.
Great.
And I'm joined by Diana, an English language coach who's going to show us how to turn those like trending news stories
Yeah.
into a language learning goldmine.
I love that.
Love-
I'm excited to be here.
Yeah, so like let's just jump right into it.
Yeah, let's unpack this idea.
Yeah, what's the big like advantage of using news to learn English?
Well, I think, when you think about like a textbook versus news,
Right.
textbooks, they give you a very structured and often simplified version of the language.
Like almost too perfect.
It is.
Yeah.
And so news throws you right into the real deal.
Right.
You encounter authentic vocabulary, idioms you might actually hear people say. And you see different writing styles that mirror how people actually use English.
It's like learning to swim in a pool, and then all of a sudden you're in the ocean, right?
Exactly.
You got to learn how to deal with the currents and the waves.
Absolutely. And, news covers such a range of topics, too.
Right.
You have everything from politics and finance
yeah.
to entertainment and sports.
Yeah.
You're constantly expanding your vocabulary in different areas.
So it's not just about like memorizing vocabulary lists.
No.
It's about actually like seeing those words
Exactly.
in action.
Yeah, and how they're used.
Yeah, and how they're used.
Yeah.
Before we go too far, if you're enjoying this deep dive so far, make sure to hit that subscribe button and leave a comment letting us know what you think.
Yes.
Okay, so you mentioned that news covers a variety of topics.
Yeah.
How does that actually help with language learning?
Well, when you learn new words within the context of a story, they just become so much more memorable. So, for example, imagine reading a news article about a groundbreaking scientific discovery.
Okay.
Not only do you learn the word groundbreaking,
Right.
but you also understand its significance and how it relates to like innovation and progress.
Right.
And the next time you hear someone say, that's a groundbreaking idea,
Yeah.
you'll instantly know what they mean.
Oh, yeah.
So it really kind of cements it in your memory.
Right. It's
Yeah.
like each news story is like a mini lesson
It is.
in vocabulary, grammar,
Totally.
and even cultural nuances.
Yes.
And before we move on, don't forget to share this episode with your fellow English learners.
Yeah.
The more the merrier, right?
Absolutely.
So let's talk about like finding the right news source.
Okay.
Where should someone start if they're like just beginning their English learning journey?
That's a great question.
Yeah.
I would say for beginners,
Yeah.
platforms like BBC Learning English
Okay.
or CNN 10 are fantastic starting points.
Okay.
They offer simplified news content that's specifically designed for language learners.
So they kind of like ease you into it a little bit.
Exactly. It's like training wheels for your ears.
Right.
And often with slower speaking speeds and clear explanations of key vocabulary.
That makes sense.
Another great resource is News in Levels,
Okay.
which presents the same news story at 3 different levels of difficulty.
Wow.
So learners can choose the level that matches their comprehension skills, and then they can gradually challenge themselves as they progress.
It's like leveling up in a video game.
Exactly.
Okay, cool. And for our listeners who are maybe a bit more advanced,
Yeah,
what are some good options for them? We want to make sure everybody has a place to start
absolutely.
here on Podcast Listen and Learn English.
For intermediate or advanced learners,
Yeah.
I recommend exploring more mainstream news outlets,
Okay.
like The Guardian or The New York Times.
Okay.
They offer a rich variety of content,
Gotcha.
from breaking news to in-depth analysis,
Right.
and they expose learners to more complex language and sentence structures.
So once you've got those basics down, you're ready for like the,
Or top end of the pool.
the deep
Yeah.
end. Exactly.
So like you've chosen your news source,
Yep.
you're ready to start learning,
Yes.
but like where do you even begin?
Well, I think one of the first things to keep in mind is you don't have to consume hours of news every day.
Right.
Start small, especially in the beginning.
Okay.
So maybe focus on short news clips,
Yeah.
maybe 2 to 3 minutes long,
Right.
or choose articles that cover topics you're already familiar with.
Bite-sized pieces of news.
Exactly.
Okay.
And don't hesitate to use subtitles.
Yeah.
They can be a great support, especially in the early stages.
Okay.
And then as your skills improve, you can gradually wean yourself off them.
It's like having a safety net
Exactly.
for your comprehension.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, so another crucial step, I think, is active vocabulary building.
Yes.
Keep a notebook Or use a note-taking app to, like, jot down any new words or phrases that you encounter.
Absolute.
Don't just let them fly by, you know?
Right.
Grab those words. Grab
Yep.
those phrases.
Make them your own.
Make them your own. Yeah. And don't forget, you can always share your favorite new vocabulary, words or phrases in the comments below.
Absolutely.
All right. So what about actually using those new words and phrases? How can we take it a step further?
I'm glad you asked that.
Yeah.
I think summarization is key here.
Okay.
So try to summarize the news stories you're reading or listening to in your own words.
Oh, okay.
It forces you to process the information
Right.
and practice expressing yourself clearly.
So it's not just about passively like absorbing the information.
No.
It's about like actively engaging with it.
Yes.
And using it to kind of refine your language skills.
Precisely. Yeah.
Okay, cool.
And speaking of active engagement, try discussing the news with others.
Oh, yeah.
Find a language partner.
Okay.
Join an online community.
Right.
Or even just chat with a friend who's also learning English.
Well, that's a good idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps you practice expressing your thoughts and opinions in English.
So it turns news into like a springboard for conversation.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
It is.
Before we wrap up part 1 of this deep dive, let's put your summarizing skills to the test with a little interactive exercise.
Okay.
Imagine you're reading a news article about this brand new electric car hitting the market
Okay.
that's known for its longer battery life and affordable price tag.
Awesome.
Now flex those summarizing muscles and try to condense that story into just like 1 or 2 sentences.
Yeah.
And then share those summaries in the comments section of Podcast Listen and Learn English on my channel, your channel name.
Perfect.
We can't wait to see your creative takes.
And don't forget to hit that like button and share this episode with anyone who might benefit from it.
Okay, so let's equip our listeners with some like common vocabulary that they're likely to encounter in these news stories.
Okay.
We'll call our news vocabulary cheat sheet.
I love it.
Okay, so what are some of those essential terms?
Okay, well, breaking news is a big one.
Yeah.
It refers to urgent or highly important news that is being reported as it happens.
Okay.
You'll also frequently hear the word reportedly,
Okay.
which means the information hasn't been completely confirmed yet.
So it's kind of like saying take it with a grain of salt for now.
Exactly.
Okay, cool.
Then there's the headline.
Right.
That's simply the title of the news story.
Short, catchy, designed to grab your attention.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
You'll also hear sources confirm,
Oh,
which indicates that the information comes from credible sources.
adding that extra layer of trust.
Exactly.
Mm.
And finally, we have unveiled,
Okay.
which is often used when something new is being revealed to the public.
So when you hear unveiled, get ready for an exciting announcement.
Exactly.
And remember, especially for those just starting out, you don't need to understand every single word in a news story.
Right.
Focus on understanding the main idea
Yeah,
and picking out those key words. And you can always look up unfamiliar words later.
absolutely.
Don't let a few unknown words stop you from like diving into the news. Right.
Exactly.
And remember, consistency is key.
Absolutely.
Even short, regular practice sessions can lead to significant progress over time.
Yes.
It's all about those small, consistent steps, just like listening to podcasts, Listen and Learn English every week.
Yes.
And with that, we'll wrap up part 1 of our deep dive into learning English through news.
We'll be back with part 2 shortly.
Stay tuned.
Welcome back to part 2 of our deep dive into using news to really amp up your English learning.
Yeah, we've uncovered some pretty cool strategies already for how to like turn those headlines of breaking news stories
Yeah.
into
Yeah.
language learning opportunities.
I know, it's exciting, right?
Yeah, we talked about choosing the right news sources,
Yes.
using subtitles strategically,
Yes.
and like making vocabulary learning an active process.
Yes.
Now, I kind of want to shift gears a little bit
Okay.
and focus on like the challenges beginners might face when they're using news to learn English, because it can feel
Oh, yeah.
pretty overwhelming at first,
Yeah.
especially when you encounter like unfamiliar words
Yep.
and those complex sentences.
Absolutely. It's natural to feel a bit intimidated at first,
Right.
but I think the key is to remember you don't need to understand every single word
Right.
to get the gist of the story.
So it's more about like grasping the big picture
Yeah.
than like getting lost in the details.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Think of it like putting together a jigsaw puzzle.
Okay.
You don't need to see every single piece
Right.
to understand what the final image will be.
I like that. Yeah.
And remember, repetition is your friend.
Oh, for sure.
The more you expose yourself to the language,
Yeah.
the more familiar those words and structures will become.
It's like learning a new song on the guitar.
Yes.
Right. At first, those chords feel really awkward,
Big do.
but the more you practice, the more they become like muscle memory.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It's all about that consistency and creating that immersion environment.
Yeah, for sure. But as you become more comfortable with the basics,
Yeah,
you can start like branching out and exploring different types of news stories.
absolutely.
So maybe start with like short news briefs and then graduate to those longer, more analytical pieces.
Exactly. And it's really about gradually pushing those comfort zones
Yeah.
and leveling up your skills.
I like that.
Yeah.
So it's all about like those little wins
Yes,
and leveling up in the game of English, right?
it is. And remember, language learning isn't a straight line.
Oh, yeah.
There are going to be days when you feel like, oh my gosh, I'm making so much progress.
Right.
And then other days where it's just like, ugh, I feel stuck.
Oh, yeah.
It's all part of the process.
That's true for pretty much anything in life.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah. So embrace those ups and downs.
Yes.
Celebrate those small victories.
Absolutely.
And don't be afraid to seek out support when you need it.
Absolutely. And there are so many incredible resources out there.
Right.
You know, online communities,
Yeah.
language exchange partners,
Yeah.
even just your fellow listeners here on podcasts, Listen and Learn English.
Oh, yeah.
Don't be shy about reaching out and sharing your experiences.
Speaking of sharing experiences,
Yeah.
if you guys have any tips or tricks for like overcoming those initial hurdles of learning English through news,
Yeah,
drop them in the comments below. We'd love to hear like what's worked for you.
absolutely. We can all learn from each other.
Yeah, for sure.
And, you know, before we wrap up part 2,
Yeah.
just remember that learning a language should be an enjoyable experience.
Right.
And if you're finding yourself getting bogged down,
Yeah.
take a step back, try a different news source, or maybe just explore a topic that really sparks your interest.
Turn that language learning journey into an adventure.
Exactly.
Right.
Yeah, find those moments of joy and connection
Oh, yeah.
with the language, and you'll be amazed at how far you can go.
Yeah, absolutely. And on that note,
Yes.
we'll wrap up part 2 of our exploration of learning English through news,
Stay tuned for part 3.
where we'll be sharing some final tips and strategies to help you unlock your full language potential.
We'll be right back.
So don't go anywhere. All right, and we're back for the final part of our deep dive into learning English through news.
We've covered so much already. From
Yeah.
choosing those perfect news sources
Always.
to tackling those challenges that, you know, those beginners might face
Right.
when they first kind of jump into this world.
Exactly. So I'm like eager to hear
Yeah.
any like final tips you might have
Okay.
that can really like take that learning to the next level.
Okay, well, one thing I always tell my students
Okay.
is vary your news consumption.
Okay.
Don't just stick to one website or one format.
Okay.
So explore different news websites.
Okay.
Listen to podcasts.
Yeah.
Watch those short video clips.
Oh, yeah.
And maybe even, you know, try reading an actual physical newspaper
Oh, yeah.
every now and then.
It's like cross-training
It is.
for your language skills.
Exactly. You're hitting all those different muscle groups.
Yeah, I like that.
Keep it interesting,
Yeah,
right?
for sure.
Another thing is to go beyond that passive consumption. Okay.
And really actively engage with the news.
Okay, so like don't just read it
Don't just read it.
or listen to it.
Yeah, think critically about
Oh,
what's
yeah.
being presented.
So like ask questions.
Yes, ask yourself, what are the key takeaways here?
Right.
Do I agree with what the author is saying?
Oh, that's interesting.
So, you know, you're not only strengthening your comprehension,
Right.
but you're also sharpening your critical thinking skills.
It's about going deeper than just the surface.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, okay.
And don't be afraid to kind of use the news as a springboard for further exploration.
Oh, okay.
You know, if you read a story and it sparks your interest,
Yeah.
do some more research, read more about it,
Right.
have a discussion with a friend.
It's like those like related articles that you see online,
It is.
but it's like for your actual life.
Exactly.
You
yeah.
take that extra step.
Like that extra step.
Yeah, and it's not just staying on your phone.
Yeah. And it
Yeah.
really turns that news consumption into this dynamic learning experience. Yeah, that's a good point.
Here's another tip.
Okay.
Use the news to connect with others.
Oh, okay.
Share those interesting articles or stories
Right.
with friends or family or
Right.
classmates that are also learning English.
So like turn it into like a shared learning experience.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
It is, and you can discuss your thoughts.
Yeah.
Practice summarizing those key points. Maybe even debate different perspectives.
It's really cool how something as like accessible as news can create all those opportunities
I know, it's amazing.
for connection and growth.
It is. It's a reminder that learning doesn't have to be confined to a classroom.
Right.
It can happen organically through everyday activities and interests.
I love that. Yeah.
And I think, when you find those moments of joy
Yeah.
and connection in your language learning journey,
Yeah.
that's when the magic really happens.
It's about like sparking that passion, that desire to like explore and connect with the world around you.
Yes, and that's what makes, learning English through news so rewarding.
Yeah.
You're opening those doors to new perspectives,
Yeah.
new conversations,
Yeah.
and really a deeper understanding of our world.
It's a journey of discovery, like both linguistic and cultural.
It really is.
So to all our listeners out there, I encourage you to like embrace the power of news
Absolutely.
in your English learning adventure.
Yes.
Explore different sources, engage critically with the information,
Yes,
and use it as a springboard for that connection and growth.
absolutely.
Remember, every news story you read, every podcast you listen to,
Yes.
every conversation you have in English, it's a step forward on that path to fluency.
Keep practicing.
Yeah.
Stay curious.
And most importantly,
Have fun along the way.
have fun, right?
Yes.
And with that inspiring message, we'll wrap up this deep dive into the world of learning English through news.
It's been a pleasure.
A huge thank you to Diana for sharing her expertise and insights with us.
Thank you for having me.
And to all of our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey.
Yes.
If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to subscribe to my channel, your channel name, for more practical tips
Yes.
and insightful discussions on, like, mastering the art of English.
Yes.
And don't forget to share your thoughts, your progress, your favorite news-inspired learning moments in the comments section below.
We love hearing from you.
We love hearing from you. So until next time, keep those language skills sharp.
Yes.
And keep exploring the world through that fascinating lens of news. See you in the next episode of Podcast Listen and Learn English.